Hi, it's the 2nd of December 2024 here in Manchester in the northwest UK. I'm Michelle Leigh. I'm a fine artist, a painter in oil and watercolour. I also make prints. By prints, I mean woodcuts, lino cuts, lithographs and etchings. My studio is at Rogue Artist Studios in East Manchester. It's an atmospheric building, a Victorian building which was a former school, and the artist relocated here from the city centre in 2017 when the mill of the former studios came under redevelopment, as did many studios, as did my studio in 2016. I've been here since 2017, and it's probably one of the best studios I've ever had. Ground floor, so it reduces all the effort and exhaustion of carrying paintings and hauling them upstairs. And I also have an opening window, which is no small thing when you've been used to not having a window that opens in previous studios. Gorton, which is where the studios are currently based, is an interesting area. It's a bit of an edgeland area, sort of between the old and the new, and it certainly inspired many pieces from me. Gorton Girls and the Gorton Courtships. When I first moved here, I did several explorations with a friend to just looking really around the area to get a feel of the place and the building. I'm in a studio which used to be the old staff room, which I share with another artist behind a screen. And sometimes at night, when I'm looking up, if I'm looking up on my own, it can feel like a scene from The Shining. I'm the eldest of 6 siblings, and as a child my family moved around a lot, and with constantly changing surroundings, the corner of the kitchen table was my only and main space in those early days, to draw and to write stories, and that was my way of escapism. After a failed attempt to make a better life for themselves abroad, my family returned to the UK and became more involved with religion. And some of my recent work has been inspired by living on the outside of my former traditional cultural practices, where strict dress codes are adhered to for all, and what is acceptable or not depends upon who is watching and from where. Education gave me a way forward. In the 80s, grants were available. I had the opportunity to complete a foundation course, which I completed with distinction. Had a great tutor, the painter Don McKinley, who was very inspiring. Afterwards, I was accepted to do a BA in fine art. I passed with first class honours, and that allowed me a scholarship to go further to complete a Master of Fine Arts, which I completed in the Northeast. In those early days, my work was very inspired by the rites and rituals of my home life. It wasn't a statement about religious practice or the nature of oppression, but it was more about recording what I saw around me in my very limited and enclosed world. It was very much really grounded by a joy of using colour and the very materiality, particularly of paint, of oil paint. And I'm still interested in what surrounds me and in my life today in 2024, where my compositions are rooted in the everyday. I love the theme of the epic in the everyday, the myth in the ordinary, the details in life, whether they are humorous, sad, or dramatic. And my work is about my response to experience, that need to tell stories through the medium of paint and contemporary imagery. I'd say to my former self, to that earnest young girl, don't worry so much. Life is too short to be so serious all the time. You know, I used to work on greaseproof paper because it was more affordable. And recently, when I was looking at making lithography, I was using things I just found in the kitchen, tin foil, Coca-Cola, seriously, to etch with. Sometimes in the studio, I want silence, and sometimes I want to dance right across my studio, which isn't always possible because I share a space with the other artists behind the screen. But sometimes I want to hear loud music, and sometimes I don't. And in a way, all of this is to lull me into the solitary activity of making a painting. It can be difficult sometimes to maintain a practice as an artist. And it's important to surround yourself with good people who lift you up and remind you of yourself and what you can do. I've had a variety of jobs in the past, ranging from professional to non-professional to keep things going, such as teaching at degree level, teaching French and art to after-school clubs, to working in an environment that was very similar, if you know the film, to Hobson's Choice. I'm really enjoying working on large figurative pieces in more recent times. There's been two main themes recently. One has been where the female figure dominates the picture plane, and the unifying element is the compression of space, which gives the effect that the figures are constantly being enclosed by their surroundings. Whereas the other theme is very much the theme of landscape as sanctuary, particularly during and post-lockdowns, areas of strange beauty where reality was touched with seemingly myths, fairy tales, fables. And thanks to Arts Council England lottery-funded bursary during COVID, it really allowed me not only to maintain my studio, but also to experiment with larger work and being able to buy material that allowed that development of that work. My work is process-led, and that just means that the way that the paint is applied to me is just as important as the subject matter itself. I'm inspired by other painters such as Bonnard, Gwen John, Andrew Cranston, Vermeer, Peter Doig, Vuillard, Frank Halbach, Joan Erdley, Sheila Fell, Helen Frankenthaler, the Canadian Seven, and I'm also inspired by tapestries and embroideries from areas such as Central Asia, particularly those pieces that are unfinished, almost more beautiful in their incompletion. I really love the quote that Peter Doig talked about when he was talking about the painter Bonnard. And he said in relation to his own work that it's not a photographic space at all. It's a memory space, but one which is based on reality. And this really is something that I think about a lot when I make my own artwork. Recently, we had the yearly open studio where we open all the studios to the public. And I was bowled over that a member of the public who had seen my painting at the Cultural Institution of Home early in the year was absolutely delighted to stumble upon what she said was a favourite painting and to find me as the artist that had made it. You know, it was the end of a long weekend, a long open studio weekend, and she really lifted me. She was so delighted, and, you know, she made me feel quite like a celebrity. I hope that when people look at my work, they take away from it a sense of joy and something that maybe taps into memories for themselves. Something to lift them, a chance to pause and reflect in the busy world that we live in. In August 2025, Salford Museum and Art Gallery will stage a solo show of my recent paintings. End of August till the 8th of February. Open weekends and all holidays. I'd love you to see it. And my Instagram is @MichelleLeigh_artist and my website www.michelleleighart.com. Thank you. Thanks, Stan, for giving me this opportunity to share what I do and to take you behind the scenes of the making of the work.